Welcome to this GCSE Science tutorial video on non-renewable energy resources. This video is part 2 of 6 videos on the topic of energy resources. So for full coverage of this topic, please start at part 1. For great GCSE Science content, be sure to subscribe and remember to check us out on TikTok, where we post GCSE Science videos daily. Fossil fuels are non-renewable energy resources. This means they will eventually run out. They cannot be replaced. Once they are gone, they're gone. Fossil fuels are formed from the remains of prehistoric organisms that lived hundreds of millions of years ago. Fossil fuels are important energy resources. This is because they have huge stores of chemical energy. Most of our electricity globally comes from the burning of fossil fuels. And the 3 fossil fuels are coal, oil, and natural gas. Fossil fuels are burnt in fossil fuel power stations. First of all, the fuel is burnt, and this causes water to be heated. So water is heated, and this produces steam. The steam then powers, it's at very high pressure, and it powers a turbine. So it turns a turbine, which is like a giant fan. This then turns a generator, which generates electricity. However, when fossil fuels are burnt, greenhouse gases are produced. These include carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is mainly produced when coal is burnt. There is some produced from oil as well. So which fossil fuel has the highest carbon dioxide emissions? Well, coal releases the most carbon dioxide, so has the highest carbon dioxide emissions, whereas natural gas has the lowest carbon dioxide emissions. And therefore that leaves oil in the middle. And this is true as long as the amount of energy produced is the same. What this statement means is, imagine we had 1,000 joules of energy being produced by burning coal, oil and gas. The coal would have the highest carbon dioxide emission. We will now look at the advantages and disadvantages of using fossil fuels as an energy resource. A big advantage of fossil fuels is that they are cheap and easy to obtain. We can drill for oil or mine for coal easily. We've been doing both of these for a very long time. Another advantage of fossil fuels is that they are a very reliable energy resource. An example of this reliability can be seen with gas power stations. Gas power stations have a short startup time, which means they generate electricity very quickly after being turned on. This is particularly useful for peak times, such as in the evenings when people are not at work or school, so this means they'll be using more electricity. Coal power stations have a longer startup time than gas power stations. For this reason, coal power stations are always on, and they produce a base load of electricity, which is essentially a constant supply. There are also disadvantages to using fossil fuels. For example, they release carbon dioxide when burnt. This adds to the greenhouse effect. which increases global warming. Another disadvantage is that oil and coal release sulfur dioxide when burnt. Too much sulfur dioxide being emitted into the atmosphere can cause acid rain. Sulfur dioxide emissions can also cause breathing problems in living organisms. There are also risks in the transportation of fossil fuels. For example, when there are oil spills. This is where ships that are carrying oil across the ocean spill it into the ocean, and this can damage marine life and their habitats. We will now talk a bit about another non-renewable energy resource, nuclear power. Nuclear power is a non-renewable energy resource that transfers energy from the nuclei of radioactive elements, such as plutonium and uranium. Essentially, energy is released from the nuclei of plutonium and uranium. So let's briefly describe how a nuclear power station works. So this energy then that is released from uranium and plutonium nuclei heats water, and this produces steam. This steam turns a turbine, which turns a generator, seen here, which then generates electricity. Well, what then are the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear power? Well, an advantage of nuclear power is that it is very reliable. Therefore, it can provide the base load of electricity. Another advantage of nuclear power is that there is no carbon dioxide or sulfur dioxide produced. Which means it does not increase global warming. Apologies, I completely forgot to write this third advantage down, so listen very carefully. With nuclear power, there is a huge power output. It is in fact 10,000 times more energy per kilogram of fuel than coal or oil. Okay, now on to the disadvantages of nuclear power. Well, first of all, radioactive waste is produced. And this radioactive waste is very expensive to dispose of. In fact, radioactive waste is stored in very thick lead containers underground. And this waste will not be safe for thousands of years. Another disadvantage is that nuclear power stations have a limited lifespan. And this limited lifespan is around 30 years. This means that they need to be decommissioned. Decommissioned means shutting down safely. And decommissioning is very expensive. With nuclear power, there is also a small risk of meltdown. This will lead to radioactive gases being produced. And this can harm wildlife and also cause cancer. Well done, you've made it to the end of the video. Thank you once again for choosing Genius Science. And remember to work hard, be kind, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.